You are analyzing data all the time, from your step count to your bank account, to whether your time is best spent cooking dinner or ordering out. What I've discovered in the last 20 years is that more people use data than they even realize. When I started off learning Excel, I had no idea I was starting my career path to data. I quickly discovered that I could create reports that provided value to my managers, but what I did not know is that I was providing critical information that would help drive the business. Once I learned that I was seeing the world through a data lens, it provided me an opportunity to advance my career. I could see data that others may have been missing, and I could bring data sets together that others didn't believe possible. I know firsthand when you invest in yourself, deepen your skills and understanding, it can be a game changer and totally change the trajectory of your career and the organization you serve. Data has a profound impact on our everyday life as people and organizations. It provides an opportunity for a generation that is already tech savvy but has an interest in business, an opportunity to pursue one of the most valuable areas of business, data. I'm Robin Hunt, co-founder of Think Data Solutions, and I see data in everything. I have worked with thousands of people to help them make data their next play. You already have valuable context as to how data can make a difference. You just need to refine your skills. If you're ready to learn more about a career in data analytics, let's jump in and get started. One of the challenges we face as we decide to pursue data as a career choice is the fact that there are many different paths and specializations. Let's define some of those roles and then discuss the common skills that are shared among all. The most universal role is that of the data worker. This person consumes data regularly, works with data often, performs some data manipulation, and presents that data as a part of their everyday work. Let's take Sally for an example. She works in the business unit and not necessarily the IT department, and each week she prepares a report for her manager. She'll then prepare the data for the reports, and her reports are the same as last week. The only difference is new data. You see, most data workers have limited access to all the different systems through the back end. They likely receive data from people who have access to the databases. Data workers like Sally may even export the data out of a system into CSV or Excel files, and the process of their data work begins. A data analyst goes further. Generally, they might have a little more access to data, model the data, and have connected to the data so they can just refresh their reports and begin the analysis and the presentation of the data. The data analyst will handle a lot of ad hoc requests, and especially if they're efficient. They will likely have more than just Excel to work with and are likely considered a guru or a wizard in their department. The data worker and the data analyst are what I consider the largest amount of roles available. Most people are some form of data worker, and they dive into data analysis more than they even know. The common skills of all data professionals are gathering data, manipulating it to meet requirements, and then reporting the outcomes in some way. Data engineers take a special skill of being able to build and design data sets, whereas a data worker and a data analyst will work with what is already built and model the data as needed. You will find a lot of people in crossover roles where sometimes they play data engineers and sometimes they act as a data analyst. One could argue on the top of the hierarchy of data roles are the data architect and the data scientist. A data architect is a creator of architecture, no different than an architect that does already built. You could argue on the top of the hierarchy of data roles are the data architect and the data scientist. A data architect is a creator of architecture, no different than an architect that designs a building. The data architect designs data systems. The importance of the architecture really can't be understated, as all roles, including the data scientist, needs this architecture. What most see as the literal top of the hierarchy is the data scientist, and I believe this is likely due to the fact that most companies have their data architecture in place, and now it's time to take that data and put it to use. This is where the data scientist comes into play. A data scientist will likely have all the common skills of the data analyst, the data engineer, and the data architect. They'll also have deeper skills in coding, statistics, and math. It's okay to not know where you'll end on your journey, math. It's okay to not know where you'll end on your journey, but I think it's important to start. You can begin either as a data worker or recognizing you already are one. You can increase your skills as a data analyst, and then as you grow deeper in your experience with data, you'll discover where you want to be. In all roles, you'll gain a deeper understanding of data, and it's okay to find a place and stay there. Is your organization data literate, data fluent, or none of the above? Let's break these terms down. Data literate means that you could read it, converse about it, and understand it. Let me give you an example. Your bank account. It's all about your finances, right? And if you really look at it, it's just all your data through transactions. Can you read your balance? Can you tell me when something is there that shouldn't be? And if it is, can you call the bank and explain it? That means you're literate about your banking data. Now to the meaning of fluent. Fluent means you can create something with it that shows skills outside of just being able to read it and use it. We know people who speak other languages. They are either literate or fluent. Someone who is literate can again pick up on the common things with the language and speak in simple sentences. But a person who is fluent can carry on conversations and author stories in that language. Just like these terms apply to language, they apply to data. Let's go back to our banking example. If you are fluent with data, you can then turn your banking data from last year into insights that will allow you to build a budgeting system and a finance tracking system. To really build your data skills, you must begin to think about how that data skill applies to your everyday life. If you are data fluent and at work someone hands you information and it's the first time you've ever seen it, you will have an approach that lets you learn that data, and you will have questions that seem natural for you to ask. Approach is everything, and building an approach or identifying it can start today, right now even. Start thinking about every time you have a new data set in front of you. What do? That's your approach. If your approach is to stare at it and wonder, well, that tells you where to begin. Now, there are degrees of data literacy and data fluency that are appropriate in the workplace, and I would argue that everyone should be data literate, the ability to read, speak, listen, and understand the data, or at least the data that applies to them. It could be timesheets or even paychecks. An organization that only has a small percentage of data fluent people means they do not have enough people to do the exploring and building that might just be the tool that takes their company to the next level. Becoming data literate and then transitioning to data fluent can be a game changer in your career. You can go from reading and basic understanding to producing insight and data tools for your organization, or maybe for yourself. Have you ever asked permission to gain access to data and been denied? Have you ever asked for permissions and just been given global admin when all you needed was read permissions? If so, then you've been a part of the data governance of the organization, or the lack of it. Data governance is a framework that incorporates strategies to create solid quality data, enable accountability, and provide transparency to the data in the organization. Data governance has processes, procedures, and people at various levels of the organization. It's meant to control every aspect of the data in the organization. Data governance can support quality of data, accountability, trust, and compliance. There is some form of data governance in every organization at every size and level. If you work in a regulated industry, then data governance will likely be more mature than other industries. I have worked in almost every size industry, regulated or not regulated, and I'm either at the mercy of the data governance or protecting myself for the lack of it. Here are some common components of data governance that directly impacts the data analyst. Access to information, how you can access it. There is typically a chain of command, and the data analyst is rarely meant to be the top of it. If you need access to information, there is someone that you will request permission to gain access to the information, like your manager. Once they hear the request, they will typically instruct you to contact the next person responsible, or they will contact them on your behalf. I once requested access to the back end of a system to my manager. He then sent the request to the technology department, who then between the two parties agreed I could have it. Little did I know it would go to a third person to implement it and notify me. The third person was the person in the cube to my left. I ate lunch with him every day. It was very controlled, and I did not understand it at the time, but now I have an appreciation of it. As a data analyst, we seek the source of truth, the golden record, and data governance is a part of providing that. We want to make sure there's an identifiable truth and that we can trust what we're working with. When we do not have at least 2 or 3 of these components to work with, we'll deal with challenges. For example, you may have been given more access than you need, and it might leave you wondering which data set you could really trust. Master data management is also a key component of the data governance framework, making sure that the data we all need is complete, accurate, and meets the business rules. This is one area where organizations that do not have a strong data governance plan or strategy will have suffering data analysts. You may find yourself always correcting something as simple as a product name that has been entered incorrectly, but are literally the same product. You might be constantly correcting customer address information. I'm always telling organizations that regardless of regulations, they have a data governance plan in place, whether they documented it or not. As a data analyst, determining the data governance plan at your organization will help you to know who to talk to, when to talk to them, and how to adequately follow the process of all things that relate to the life cycle of data at the organization. Have you ever asked permission to get also a key component of the data governance framework? As a little girl, I got sick. I mean, really sick. My mother immediately took me to the doctor, and they did an x-ray because I had a headache so bad I'd been sick for 2 days. The x-ray showed nothing, but the physical signs of the illness and the blood work were enough for the doctor to send me to the ER. A day or 2 later, they did another x-ray, and when they did, they discovered why I was so sick. You see, I had a bacterial infection that was unfortunately on its way to my brain. I was hospitalized for 11 days and then given the right types of treatments to prevent it getting worse and treatments to help get it better. What does this have to do with data quality? Well, the first x-ray showed nothing, and what they actually discovered is that their machine was broken. Would I have gotten better faster if that first x-ray showed them what the second x-ray did? We'll never know. We can't go back in time. Quality data is data that can be trusted to produce accurate insights, so decisions can be made. In my situation, had they waited even longer to do the second x-ray or even sent me home, I would not be here today. Not all data decisions are life or death, but they can have terrible consequences for businesses if data quality is not an everyday part of the culture. It is important for us to all remember as data professionals that people are using data to make decisions, and bad data can mean bad decisions with profound consequences. There are data quality dimensions that you can be aware of as a data analyst. This isn't a complete list of everything you will find for data quality, but here are the 4 major hallmarks of quality data: complete, consistent, valid, and accurate. Completeness of data. Do we have all the data? Completeness of data. Do we have all the data that's needed? Is any of it missing? Is it all usable? Consistency. Is this data in other systems? And is the information consistent across all of them? In other words, does the same record and production system match what we sent to the invoicing system? Validity. Does the data meet the requirements of what we're attempting to do with it? And is it in the right format in which we need to do it? Accuracy. Is it accurate? This is a big one. Is this information accurate? And in my case, it was not. I think it's important that we know quality can be measured and we can determine it was not. I think it's important that we know quality can be measured and we can determine if it's complete, consistent, valid, and accurate. And if it's not 100%, well, we need to know that. Again, some data means life or death, so data quality at the highest rate is important. Have you ever heard the phrase, our company makes data-driven decisions? Well, of course they do. And they are making data-driven decisions all the time. It could just be bad decisions because the data is bad. Data-driven decisions happen all the time. We need more money in the account, so someone get those salespeople motivated. That is a data-driven decision and action. The problem is this is a single data point and at a crisis moment. I tend to ask people if they want to be data informed. Data and business intelligence lets you have both information and the ability to make intelligent business decisions. For example, with the correct data and an understanding of the process and the business goals defined with a solid set of KPI, key performance indicators, a business can see a downward trend in sales before it becomes a problem. This allows the business an opportunity to course correct to attempt to prevent a crisis moment. For business intelligence to be practical, it requires you to store the data that's important to the business and all its processes. You can't just focus on one number like our earlier example. Just knowing one number and that you have to hit it means that you understand the goal. However, it's not all the information you need. All the other data that impacts that goal needs to be analyzed with the business rules. Fortunately, we have business intelligence tools, and they are a tool to build business intelligence with. The tools do not provide it by themselves, just like a hammer requires nails and someone to use it to build something. Businesses need to define the metrics that help them track the overall health of the organization. Again, these metrics are KPIs. Let me make it practical, and I'll use health as an example. If you know your heart rate as an adult is supposed to be anywhere between 60 to 100 beats per minute, and you watch it every day, and suddenly you see it spike and stay elevated, it would indicate that something is happening to make your heart beat faster. With a bit more information, like tracking what you eat or drink, you can analyze this data, and you notice that it's elevated when you drink a certain type of drink, and it stays elevated for a couple of hours and then goes back down. To make an adjustment, you can stop drinking that drink or reduce the amount of it. Whatever the adjustment is, you make it. You then analyze your heart rate to determine the adjustment to see if it made a difference. When you apply this concept to the overall health of business, then you can easily determine what the heart rate of the business is and what are the items that impact it. This allows you to start to define the metrics that help you monitor the health of the business and provide business intelligence.